Hello everyone, my name is Joe, and I'm going to be facilitating this course for you today. Today we're going to be talking about Google Sheets. Now Google Sheets is a spreadsheet program included as part of a free web-based software within the Office suite offered by Google. I'm really excited to be here with you today, and today we're going to go over an introduction into Google Sheets. To access Google Sheets, the first thing we're going to want to do is open it up via a web browser. Now, I like to use Google Chrome because, well, Google products work best with Google products. So I'm going to click on Google Chrome. And what you'll notice is that I'm already signed into my Google account. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do, is you're going to want to sign into your Google account using your Google credentials. You'll notice I have my Gmail and my first name and last name there. Now, right next to it is the app launcher. It's also known as the grid or the waffle, so you can call it whatever you like. And when I click it, I see a menu where I can access all of the different Google applications. And if I click on Sheets, it's going to bring me to the Start page here. Now the Start page is really nice because I can access all of my recent files I've been working on. I can access some of Google Sheets templates. I can search for files, or even start a blank file. Now, another way to quickly access a new spreadsheet, if you know you're not going to be using a template, is to open up another tab here within your Google Chrome and type sheets.new and press enter. And when you do that, it'll open up an untitled spreadsheet. So take a moment, sign into Google, and when we come back, we'll talk about the interface of Google Sheets. Now that we have a new sheet opened, let's talk about the interface of Google Sheets. Now, Google Sheets utilizes these little drop-down menus. And if you simply click on one of the corresponding words here, like my File menu, it'll show me everything that's within my Files menu. And if I just simply move over, it'll show me everything in Edit, my View commands, Insert, Format, and so on and so forth. Now, right underneath it, we actually have access to a quick access toolbar. And these will be some of the commands that are the most popular in Google Sheets. Now, other things we can do when we're in an untitled spreadsheet is we can name our untitled spreadsheet, which we'll talk about doing a little later. We can create comments and open up the comment history, share this spreadsheet, which we'll talk about later, take a look who signed into the account, which it's us, so perfect. And if we wanted to go back to that Google Sheets startup page, we can just simply click on this and it'll bring us back to the Sheets home. If I click on it, you'll notice here we are, where we can review all of our recent files and the templates. But I'm going to keep it open to a new spreadsheet, and I'll just exit out of this other one as well. So take a moment, get familiar with some of these drop-down commands, and when we come back, we'll talk about being able to actually search these menus. If you're brand new to using Google Sheets, no worries. There's some help here when it comes to taking a look at all of the different menu options. Now, at first, it could look a little overwhelming, but no worries, because if you go over to the Help section, you'll notice we can search the menus. Now, searching the menus is great when you don't really know exactly where things are within those menus. For example, if I'm new to Sheets and I type in just my name here, I'm just going to type Joe into the cell. Maybe what I want to do is I want to bold this. But right now, you'll notice that it's not bold. So I'm going to click on that cell. And let's say I can't find where bold is. Where is that command? I can't find it. If I go over to my help and I search the menus for bold, and I just type in bold, it'll pull up that command. And when I click on it, it'll actually bold the word. If I wanted to underline, and I don't know where that is, I can go to help again. And what you'll notice is there is a little bit of a keyboard shortcut when it comes to searching the menus, which is Alt \\. So if I just simply use my Alt backslash, it'll pull up my search menu and I can type in underline, and there we go. Not only can you see that it's going to underline it, but it also gives you the keyboard shortcut to underline it. So if you're like me and you enjoy those keyboard shortcuts, you can quickly learn them through these search menus. There we go. I'm going to go to Help, Underline, select it, and I see now that it's underlined my word. So take a moment, try out that Help menu there, and when we come back, we'll talk about selecting and navigating our cells within our Google Sheets. In Sheets, there's many ways to navigate and select cells. We can either use our mouse to click around. So you'll notice I'm in A1. I know I'm in A1 because of the blue border around it. And if I wanted to go to cell C3, I can just click using my mouse, or F2, or B7. And I can use the mouse to click around and navigate the different cells. Another way to do this is to use our arrow keys on the keyboard. If I use my right arrow, I go to the right. If I use down, I go down. Left, I go left. And the up arrow goes up. Now I can also use other keys besides the arrow keys, like my tab key, which is next to my Q on my keyboard. If I press the tab, it goes over to the right. And if I use Shift tab, it goes to the left. If I press my Enter key or the Return key, it goes down. And if I hold down my Shift key, Shift and Enter, goes up. Now let's say we had some data here. I'm going to input some data, but we'll talk about this in a moment. So I'm going to put in some very simple data, like name. I'm going to press tab to go over. Date, tab to go over. And we'll say salary. Now I can press my Enter key, or I can go down with my down arrow. It's really up to you. So I'm going to use my Enter key here. And what it does is it automatically puts me under A2, which is nice because they know that I'm going to start on the next row and start writing some stuff, like my name, date of hire, and then my salary. We'll make it a huge salary. There we go. Millions of dollars. So now that I have this, a great way to select cells is to either click and drag. And you'll notice by clicking and dragging, I'm able to highlight these cells. I can also use my Control key and my Shift key, and then my arrow keys to quickly select the cells into the next empty space. So I just simply used my Control Shift to the right and Control Shift down to quickly select this. So take a moment, practice, and when we come back, we will learn some more Google Sheets tricks. Now you may have noticed in the previous section, I was able to enter and put in some data into this sheet. Now the way I did that was pretty simple. I just simply clicked on a cell and I started typing. And that's it. That's how we can enter data into the spreadsheet. So for instance, if I wanted to start over here, I'm just going to simply select either by clicking and dragging, right? Or remember, we can select by Control Shift to the right or down. And then I can press delete on my keyboard to delete all that data. I can start over by just starting in A1. I'm going to type in name. And I'm just going to type in and then press tab to go over one. And I'll type in again, date of hire, tab to go over one, and salary. Now let's say, for instance, that I didn't want it to just say salary. Maybe I wanted it to say pay per hour. Let's do that. If you ever want to edit the data, all you have to do is click into the data. Now you'll notice that once you click into a cell, you'll see right over here, we have our formula bar. And it will actually show you the true value of a cell. Now you might be saying, Joe, what does that mean exactly? Well, let's say that I enter in data here. I do this. I enter in a 1. Perfect. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to enter in another 1 as well, but in a different way. Now, what you're going to notice is that both of these 1s are very similar. I'm going to use my little help bar that we learned about before to make sure that's not underlined. So now you'll notice we have 2 1s in here. They both look the same, but they're really different. And I know they're different only by taking a look at the true value in the formula bar. If I click into this one, it just has a simple 1 there. But if I click into this one, it's not actually just 1. It is a calculation, 1 plus 0. So if you simply want to see what the true value is behind a cell, you can click into it. And if you ever want to edit that cell, you can either backspace by clicking on the backspace on your keyboard and re-entering into the cell. Or if I just simply wanted to edit this, I can come up here to the formula bar and edit it any way that I want. And I'm going to change this pay per hour. Or I can also put, let's just do hourly rate. There we go. So that's how we can edit data and also enter in data or even delete it if we have to. So take a moment, practice this on your own, and we'll have some fun when you come back. Google Sheets has a great way of analyzing data. And I want to show you a unique tool that Google Sheets has where we can ask questions about our data and quickly visualize and analyze our data. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create some false data together. So let's do this. If you still have name, date of hire, and hourly rate, we're going to select all of this and press delete on our keyboards. And what I want to do is I just simply want to put in some fake data here. I'm going to put in, let's do the salesperson. We can do week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way to week 4. And what we're going to do is put in some fake data here and then analyze it quickly using a unique tool called Explore. So I'm going to put in some fake names here. I'll put in my name. I'll put in my good friend Trevin's name. My good friend Liz. And I think that's good. All 3 of us, that's perfect. All right. So now we're going to just put in some false numbers for week 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each of us. And I'm going to make some simplistic ones, nothing too crazy. So if you're following along, you can copy those or put in your own data if you like. Now you'll notice that my E3 still has that underline. I'm just going to use the keyboard shortcut Control U for underline. Now Control B for bold, Control U for underline, and Control I for italicize. So those are just keyboard shortcuts that you can use to quickly underline, bold, and italicize. So now that we have our data here, if we quickly wanted to analyze this data, we could do so by actually clicking the button for Explore. Now, if you're not familiar with it, no worries at all. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll notice that we have our Explore button right there. Looks like a little star. And if you click on it, what it's going to do is it's going to open up Explore. Now, I really like Explore because what it can do is take a look at our data and quickly answer questions about our data. It can show us some different formattings for our data, and it quickly analyzes and creates visuals about our data, which is great. So for instance, maybe what I want to know is the salesperson with the minimum in week 3. And if I click on that, it'll tell me that the answer is Joe. In week 3, I have the minimum amount of money that I brought into the company. And I can always change that. Maybe I want to see week 2. And once again, it's me. And it looks like I'm going to be the bottom dog for each of these weeks. Maybe I want to see who has the maximum. And I can see the top salesperson by week 2 is Liz. And if I wanted to take a look at week 4, once again, it's Liz. Now it'll tell us the answer, it'll tell us what the question is, and if we wanted to, we can see the formula, and it'll tell us what it is. And we can also rate this answer. Now the next thing we can do is take a look at related questions like count of the salesperson. We can take a look at previous answers. And if we wanted to simply exit out of the answers and go back to our Explore, we can click on the back arrow. Now another great thing that it offers us is formatting. And if you don't know what formatting is, it simply means it's going to change the appearance of the cells. Now I can alternate the colors, and if I click on this blue color, you'll notice it makes this a nice dark blue, and then it bans the rows so that we can access our data and visually see it a lot better. You can choose between different colors here. Now another thing we can do is insert quick analysis charts, like this bar chart right here, or even a pie graph. And maybe I want to take a look at this one. Now to insert this, there's 2 ways to do it. I can either come over here and click on the insert chart, or if I just wanted to simply view the full size of this chart, I can click there and see what it looks like. Once I'm done, I can click insert chart and it'll actually insert it in. Or I could just click right here and there we go. So as you can see, the Explore can be very beneficial when asking questions about our data, formatting the appearance of our data, or even inserting visualizations of our data. Take a moment and explore. Let us talk about how we can utilize calculations within our spreadsheet to quickly get total numbers for our total sales amounts. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to just simply delete this graph by clicking on it. Now, I know it's selected because of the different sizing squares here, and I can just simply click delete on my keyboard once it's selected, and there we go. I'll also exit out of my Explore by going over and clicking on the X. So what I may want to do here is add another header under F1, and I'm going to call this one total sales, because I just want to simply see how much we made total in a combination from week 1 to week 4. Now what you may notice is it's going to keep that same formatting that we discovered in our Explore before. So if you did format your cells or change the appearance of them, it will follow along for the rest of them as well. So let's start off by creating a calculation. And I'm just going to zoom in by utilizing my zoom button right over here. Right now I'm at 100%. I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to go over to, let's do 150. And that looks good. So to start off any calculation within a spreadsheet, what we're going to have to do is use the universal sign of mathematics, which is the equal sign. I'm going to click on equals, and there we go. And now I can start off by saying I want to take this number, which is 1200, so I'll type in 1200, and I want to add that, so I'm going to use the plus key, to 1300, so I'm going to type 1300 plus 1400 plus 1500. Now, once I'm done with my calculation, I can simply press enter on my keyboard, and it will give me that total calculation, which is awesome. So we can do some great simple calculations within spreadsheets. So if I wanted to quickly see how much is 500 multiplied, now when we do multiplication, we're going to use an asterisk. I'll do 500 times 500. You'll notice that not only is it telling me what it is exactly up here, but if I press enter, it will then input that value into the cell. So what I want you to do at this moment is fill in the rest of these total sales. I'll do that as well, and when we come back, we'll keep going on with some great Google Sheets. So while we were gone, what we did was we filled in the rest of these total sales, And once again, to simply do a simple calculation, we're going to click the universal sign of mathematics, which is our equal sign, and then we'll start to add using the plus sign. Now we've done some great work here, and it would be a waste if we didn't save it. But the good thing is that we don't have to worry about saving within Google Sheets, because Google Sheets will automatically save this for us. Now you'll see the document status if I click on it. All changes have been saved to Drive. Now this is really important to know, because the minute that you open up a spreadsheet, whether it be Google Sheets, Google Slides, or Google Docs, the minute you start making changes within one of these files, it automatically saves to your Google Drive. If you don't know what Google Drive is, stay tuned because we're going to talk about that in a second. So as I said before, we don't have to worry about saving this document because it automatically saves to our Google Drive. But we may want to rename this document. And to do that, all we simply have to do is come over here to the untitled spreadsheet, click into it, and start to name it. Now, once it names it, you'll see that it says that it's going to put it in My Drive. So let's name it together. Now, you can name it whatever you like. I'm going to personally name this my Google Sheets Practice Fun. And that's it. Then I can click away, and now this file is forever known as my Google Sheets Practice Fun. Now, I'll even tell you the last time it was edited was 3 minutes ago. And let's say I want to get rid of this 250,000. I can just simply click delete, and you'll notice that right here, it is now saying that it was saved to the drive. So, what exactly is Google Drive? Well, let's move our attention from Google Sheets for a second and talk about Google Drive. So to access my Google Drive, I'm going to once again open up a new tab in my web browser, go over to my Grid, Waffle, or App Launcher, whatever you like to call it, and I'm going to click on Drive. It looks exactly like this. It uses the colors of Sheets, Slides, and Docs, and it looks like a little triangle. And if you click into it, it will bring you to this online storage system. Now, I want you to think of this Google Drive as your own personal filing cabinet system that follows you around magically wherever you go. As long as you have computer access and internet access, you will be able to access all of your files in your Google Drive. Now, what you'll see here is if I scroll down, you'll notice that I have all of my files right here. And I also see that if I wanted to see the last time I modified a file, or if I wanted to quickly access a file, I can access that Google Sheets Practice Fun right here. So I'm just going to click on my dropdown, and I want to see the last time it was modified. And it'll put it in that order, which is nice. Or we can also put it in a name order from A to Z, or we can reverse the sort direction from Z to A, whatever we like. If I scroll down, I'll see now that I have that Google Sheets for fun, and I created it just now. Last time it was modified, 9:49, and you'll see it is 9:52 here. So Google Drive is a great way to access your files from any device from anywhere around the world. All right, so take a look at your Google Drive. You might find some stuff that you didn't even know was there. Take a look at it, and when we come back, we'll get right back into Google Sheets. In our previous section, we created a calculation by going into our cell and typing in equals, the universal sign of mathematics, and then entering each entry manually with a plus sign. Now you might be saying to yourself, Joe, that's great, but it took us a long time to do that. And I agree with you, it did take a long time. So I want to show you something else, something known as a formula. Now a formula simply takes the cell value, whatever's in the cell, and it adds it to whatever's in the next cell and the next cell and the next cell, so it doesn't actually matter. Because let's say, for instance, I messed up. Let's say on week 4, it wasn't 1500, it was actually 1600. Well, even though I'm going to change this, what you'll notice is now this calculation is wrong. Because remember, I originally had the 1500 here. So now I have to go in and manually change this to 1600. And that might take us a long time if we made multiple mistakes. Instead, what I want to show you is how we can use a formula so that we can have this automated and never have to worry about it again. So to do that, the first thing we're going to want to do is let's delete what's in this cell. Now remember, to delete anything in a cell, you're first going to select it and then press delete on your keyboard. Now the same thing with calculations applies to formulas. We're going to start off any calculations or formulas with the universal sign of mathematics, which is our equal sign. Now that I have this, instead of actually typing out the manual number for week 1, which is 1200, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually select the cell, B2. I'm going to select it by clicking on it. And you'll notice when I select it, not only does it tell me that I have selected B2, it tells me what the value is inside of B2, which is our 1200 number. After that, I'm going to add a plus sign. I'm going to click on the second cell, which is C2. And I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to add, and you'll notice that every single time I add a new cell, it keeps a running total of how much we're up to. And right now, all 3 of these is equal to 3900. And I'm going to add one more plus sign and select E2. So now it's simply saying whatever's in this cell, plus whatever's in this one, plus whatever's in this one, and whatever's in this one is equal to 5500. Now let's say I made that same mistake. It wasn't 1600, I was right the first time, it was 15. Watch what happens when I change the value of this cell from 16 to 15. Remember our total 5500. I'm going to update week 4 to 15, and it reflects that cell, 5400, because instead of manually inputting the number, it is actually whatever is in the actual cells. So take a moment, do that on your own for the rest of these, and when we come back, we'll talk about some more great tips and tricks. Now that we're a little more familiar with formulas and calculations, you may be saying to yourself, well, Joe, these are great, but it's still taking me a lot of time to do these. And you would be right, because think about it. When we did this formula here, we had to click on B2 plus C2 plus D2, and it took us quite a lot of time to do. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is something called a function. Now, a function is a pre-existing formula that was built by Google, and it will help us to speed up those calculations and formulas. Now, you can find some of these formulas by going right over to our insert, go to function, and you'll see all the functions that were pre-existing and built by Google. Now, if you're doing a math function, you can hover over math, and you'll see all the different functions for math. And if you're not sure what to use, you can always just simply hover over and it'll tell you exactly what it does. Like for instance, our sum function. What it does is it sums up a series of numbers or cells. Now that's something that can actually work for us because that's what we want to do. We want to sum up week 1 through week 4. So I can use this function, and I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing we should do is just select these 3 formulas and press delete on your keyboard. And let's start off in F2. Now the same thing applies. Whether it's a calculation, a formula, or a function, you're always going to use the universal sign of mathematics, which is our equal sign, and boom, there it is. So the next thing we're going to do is choose the actual function we're going to use. Now remember, we can use the function by going over to the insert and then inserting a function that way. Or if we already know what the function is, we can start to type out the name of the function. And in this case, we know it is sum. So I'm going to start typing out sum, S-U-M. Now once I do that, you can use the tab key to open up the parentheses. So it's going to go equals the name of the function, and then you're going to press the tab key to open up that parentheses. Now you could hold down the shift key and press 9 for an open parentheses, but the tab key makes it so much simpler. Now you'll notice right away that the minute I click on that tab key, it opens up a little bit of a blueprint for us to follow if we've never used functions before. Not only that, it gives you an example of a function, it tells you about the function, and it tells you about the first entry of this function, value 1, and tells you what it is. So it tells me here that the first number is going to be the first number arranged to add together. So that's perfect. I know that that is right here, B2. Now that we have this, there's a couple things we can do. We can either use a comma and select the second value, a comma and select the third value, and a comma and select the fourth value. But you may be saying to yourself, well, isn't that pretty much the same as a formula? You just did equals B2 plus C2 plus D2, and you're right. So instead of doing it this way, which you're more than welcome to, what you can also do is you can select all of the things you want to sum by clicking and dragging. And what you'll notice now is instead of it being an entry on its own, it now says that we're selecting from B2 all the way through. This little colon here is going to be all the way through E2. Okay, so we're selecting the sum. We want to see the sum of B2 all the way through to E2. And once we're done, we can press enter. And there we go. It now tells us how much it was, and we know 5,400 is the correct answer. So now we see in our formula bar, this is equal to the sum of B2 through E2. So take a moment, fill out the rest of these and practice on your own. And when we come back, we'll get into saving some time with something known as AutoFill. Even though functions save us a lot of time, we still have to do a function for each of these cells. And if we had more data here, which we're going to add in a second, it could be quite tedious to do. So instead, I'm going to show you a quick way that we can use the first function or formula and copy the pattern all the way down. So the first thing I want you to do is, if you did fill out the total sales, we're going to make sure that they are deleted out. So I'm going to delete all of the total sales out. And we're going to add some more people here. I'm going to add my friend Sammy, my friend Ben, my friend Damon, and my friend Delete. So now we're going to just add some more numbers. And I'm just going to copy that same pattern where we use the one number and then add increments of 100. All right. I just want to say here that Damon's my CEO, so I'm going to make sure that he makes the most out of all of us in this one. So now I have all of my data here, which is perfect. And I want to do the same exact thing. What I want to do is I want to create the total sales amount using a function. So to do that, we now know how to. We're going to start off with our equal sign. We're going to type in the function, which we're using the sum function, tab on our keyboard to open up the parentheses, and we're going to select exactly what we want to sum together, which is week 1 through week 4, and press enter on our keyboard. Now we can do this for all of them, but it's going to take us a moment. So instead, I want to show you a great little trick when it comes to using the same pattern within all of the functions or formulas. So you'll notice that we are doing the sum of B2 through E2. And you may have noticed right here, there is this square at the bottom right-hand corner of the cell. That's actually known as our AutoFill handle. Now, AutoFill is a great tool within our Google Sheets that helps us to follow a pattern. Now, what do I mean by pattern? So as I said before, this is equal to the sum of B2 through E2. And if I wanted to use the autofill, it would follow that pattern and it would say, okay, I see what he's doing. He's adding from week 1 to week 4. And they'll do the same thing if we use the autofill and follow the pattern, except for Trevin's numbers from week 1 to week 4, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to autofill down. Now to autofill, it's very simple. You're going to take your cursor and hover right over this square. And you'll notice your cursor changes from the arrow point to a black-haired cursor. And all you have to do is click and drag all the way down. And you will notice in a moment, it will autofill all of these cells. And if we take a look at it, it actually followed that pattern. Now it's B3 through E3, B4 through E4, the sum of B5 through E5, and so on and so forth. So it saw what the pattern was and applied it to all of them. Now another thing we could have done when it comes to autofill, and I'm just going to use Control Z. Control Z will simply undo my last move, is if you hover over, instead of clicking and dragging, you could give it a double click. And as long as there's data to the left or to the right, it will autofill to that next data, stopping at the blank cell. So you don't have to click and drag, you could have just double clicked. Now remember, you can only do this if there's data to the left or to the right. So take a moment, practice autofill on your own, and when we come back, we'll talk about relative reference versus our absolute reference. As you can see, autofill can save us a lot of time. So let's keep going with this. Let's say I want to add another column here, and I'm going to call this one bonus. So I'm going to click into G1, type in bonus, and everyone's going to get a bonus. Everyone's been doing really well in our sales lately, so we're going to give everyone a 20% bonus. Now I want to put the bonus rate somewhere, and let's do the bonus rate right down here in A10. I'm going to put bonus rate. And I'll put that bonus rate as I said, 20%. Since everyone's doing well, we'll do 20%. Now what I want to do is I want to see how much their bonus is going to be. Their bonus is going to be 20% of their total sales. And to do this, all we have to do is create a formula. So the formula is going to be this. We're going to say equals. We're going to take their total sales. I'll just simply click on the cell. And we're going to multiply it, remember using the asterisk, by 20%. And when I press enter, it will give me their bonus amount, which is 1,080. Now I don't want to keep going with this, right? Because we don't want to sit here all day and have to do this. But we know a cool trick now, autofill. So let's autofill by double clicking, and look at that. Wait a second, it didn't work. Let's take a look at why. Remember, if I want to see the true value of a cell, I'm going to look into the formula bar. So let's take a look at G3's formula. So I see it's F3, okay, so that's good. F3 multiplied by B11. B11, wait a second, there's nothing in B11. And if I keep going down, it looks like F4, B12, F5, B13, F6, B14, and so on and so forth. So I see what happened now. Now, when we use autofill, what it does is it uses relative reference. It's relative to the one before it, which is how it follows the pattern. So here it worked for us because it was B2 through E2, and then they did B3 through E3, and so on and so forth, and that worked in our favor. But unfortunately, it doesn't work in our favor now because what we need to do is we have to do all of these F's, F2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, times B10. And we don't want B10 to be changed to B11 or B12 or B13 like it did here. So how do we actually stop that from happening? Well, to do that, we're going to use a technique called absolute reference. So let us try this again. We're going to select all of these and just press delete on our keyboard. And we're going to write out our formula once again. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is my equal sign. And I want to do the total sales. So I'm going to click on it, multiplied by B10. But the thing is, we don't want B10 to ever move. We want it to stay there. And that's why we're going to use absolute reference. We absolutely don't want B10 to move. That helps me remember that I want to use absolute reference because I absolutely don't want it to move. Now, since I don't want B10 to move, we're actually going to have to tie it down with anchors. And these anchors are a familiar icon, which is the dollar symbol. Now, I like the dollar symbol because it kind of looks like handcuffs, right? If I use the dollar symbol here, it looks like handcuffs. They're handcuffing B10 down so that it can't move. It has to stay there forever. Now, to do that, we're going to have to put a handcuff in front of the B, so a dollar sign in front of the B, and we're going to have to put a dollar sign in front of the 10. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that it doesn't move from column B, and we want to make sure it doesn't move from row 10. So it stays here forever. Now, if you never remember things like putting a dollar sign somewhere, I'm 100% with you. So I'm going to show you a keyboard shortcut. To absolute reference anything, you can use the keyboard shortcut F4 on your keyboard. Now, if you're using a laptop, you may need to hold down the FN key, which is usually next to the Windows key on your keyboard. But if not, if you're using just a normal external keyboard, you can press F4 all the way at the top. You'll see the F keys, F1 through F10 or 12. So to use that, I'm going to click anywhere next to the B10, whether I'm in front of it, at the end of it, in between it somewhere. And on my keyboard, I'm going to press F4. And look at that. It will absolute reference it. So if you're not good at remembering where to put those, you can always just use the keyboard shortcut. Now that I have this absolute reference here, I'm going to press enter. Gives me that number again, 1080. And this time, let us autofill again. And look at that. It worked. And let's take a look at why. F2, B10. F3, that B10 is now tied down, it didn't move. F4, B10, and so on and so forth. So sometimes we do need to use absolute reference versus relative reference. Take a moment, try this out on your own, and when we come back, we will get into the second part of our training. Welcome back. So now we're going to be talking about how we can actually insert columns and rows into our spreadsheet. So let's say, for instance, that I want to make a notes section to the left of the salesperson column A. Well, to do that, we simply have to go over to the Insert menu right up here. Give that a click, and you'll notice we have buttons to insert rows above or below, or insert columns left and right. So let's say that I want to insert a column to the left of A. I'm going to first select column A by clicking on the actual column. And then I can go to Insert, and I can insert a column to the left or the right of A. And I'll click column left. And you'll see that it inserts one column. But what happens if I wanted to insert more than one column? Do I really have to keep clicking Insert and column to the left? Well, you could, but I'm going to show you a faster way. So I'm going to click Undo real quick. To insert more than one column at a time, you're going to select that amount of columns. So let's say I wanted to insert 2. I'm going to click A and drag B, and then go to Insert And you will now see instead of inserting one column, it's going to insert two to the left or to the right. And if I selected 3 and I go to insert, it'll insert 3 and so on and so forth. So let us insert 2 columns. I'm going to click on A and B, go to insert, and I'm going to do 2 columns to the left. And this is where I can put some notes and the date of the note. And I could say something like, Joe called in sick for half of week 1. And that helps because now I know why Joe's numbers are so low. I'm just going to make this a little bigger by clicking between A and B columns and dragging it. And there we go. And I'll say that I entered this in today, August 2020. Now let's say I wanted to add another salesperson here. To do that, I can insert a row above or below wherever I'm selected. So let's say I wanted to go right next to Ben's row. So I'm going to select Ben's row and go to insert. You will now say that I can insert a row above or below. The same concept applies to rows. If I select 2 rows and I go to insert, it'll insert 2 rows. And if I select 3 or 4, so on and so forth, it'll insert that amount. So if I want to just simply insert below Ben, I can go to insert, a row below, and there it goes. And I'm just going to press Control Z to undo. So what I want you to do is take a moment, enter in that data, insert a column or a row, and then when we come back, we'll get into some more fun. Now we have the spreadsheet looking a little weird because ever since I inserted the new columns for the notes and the date, I noticed that my bonus rate is just hanging out right here. So what I may want to do is I may want to move the bonus rate to somewhere else within my spreadsheet. Now I can do this by copying it and moving it by using copy and paste, or I can actually just move it by clicking and dragging it. And I'm going to show you both ways. So for instance, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my zoom to 125 so I can see everything in my spreadsheet. I'm then going to decide where I want to put the bonus rate. Most likely, I want to put it over here. So there's 2 ways I can do this. I can select it and use the copy and then paste functions if I wanted to. And I can do that by going to my edit, cut, copy, or paste. And you'll see the keyboard shortcuts, Control X to cut. I like to think of the X as scissors. Control C to copy, C for copy, and then Control V to paste. And the V looks like the tip of a glue bottle, so paste. Those are just little things that help me to memorize these keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to use the cut, which will actually remove it from this section and put it wherever I paste it. If I was to copy it, it would just simply create a copy of this content, and then I can paste it somewhere. But since I don't want to make a copy, I just want to move it, I can use cut, and then select where I want to cut it, and I'm going to go back to edit and paste. And there it goes. It's now over in the A and B columns. Now there could have been another way to do this, and if I hit Control Z, I'll show you. To simply move content from one cell to another, you're going to highlight it, and you'll notice that I get this little hand icon. So the minute that you hover over the border, you will change it from a pointer to a hand. Once you see that hand, you can click and grab. You'll notice the hand looks like it's actually grabbing it, and you can move it around wherever you want. Now, if you move it on top of cells that have content, it'll tell you that you're going to replace it there. See, it replaced Sammy's data. So instead, I'm just going to hover, highlight, click and hold, and drag it over to where I want it. So 2 different ways to do that. You can either move data by clicking, selecting it, and then moving it, or using copy, paste, and cut. Take a moment, try it out on your own, and then we'll come right back. So you may remember that awesome tool called AutoFill. And we used AutoFill for our total sales, and it just helped us to quickly copy that pattern in the formula. And we also used it in our bonus column as well to copy that formula. We used relative reference here, while in the bonus we used absolute reference. So I want to actually show you a little bit more of the features when it comes to AutoFill. AutoFill doesn't just help us to copy patterns between formulas and functions, but it also helps us to complete a series of values. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's say that I type in here 1, and then I press enter, and I do 2, and I want to follow that pattern all the way down to 10. Well, to do that, I would select the 1 and the 2, and that's actually a pattern, because 1, and if we increase it by 1, it's equal to 2. And if we follow that pattern and increase it by 1, that would be 3, and then 4, and 5, and so on and so forth. So if I want to, I'm going to use the autofill the same exact way, hover over my square until the cursor changes, and I'm going to click and drag. And look at that. It completed the pattern, increments of 1. Now I could do this for the next one too. I can go to 2s, I can click 4, highlight both of them, and use autofill. Now you want to be sure to make sure to select both, because if you don't do that, let's say I did 1 and then I did 2, but I forgot to select the 2 and I autofill, it's just going to autofill 1s all the way down. So it's important for you to make sure you select 1 and 2 just to show autofill what the pattern is. We can do it for 3 as well. 3 to 6 are increments of 3. And there we go. Now, not only that, but we can have some more fun with this. It doesn't only fill in a series of values for numeric values, but also for things like the week, Monday. If I want to go down, I can autofill. Look at that. I can also use the abbreviated form of the week, mon. I can do months. The abbreviated form for months. And there we go, it worked. Now let's say, for instance, that we want to do week 1, 2, 3, and 4. We could have just done this. Week 1. And now that it has the pattern, there we go. So you can use this to really save time. With that said, take a moment, try it on your own, and then we'll come back for more fun. Another great feature within Google Sheets is being able to align our text within the cell. I want to show you what that looks like. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take all of this data and I'm going to delete it out. And let's say, for instance, that what I want to do is I actually want to align this text into the middle. So what do I mean by that? Well, what you may have noticed is that whenever we put a text field in, it goes over to the left. And whenever we put a numeric value in, it goes to the right. So if I put in my name, it stays on the left. And if I put in a number, it goes to the right. Well, if I wanted both of these to align in the middle, or maybe both of them to be to the left, I would have to select a cell, go over to my format, and here's where we can align the text, merge the cells, wrap the text, or even change the rotation of the text. So let's talk about aligning first. The first thing I notice is that we have 3 options. We can align it to the left, the center, or the right. And then going vertically, we can align it towards the top, the middle, or the bottom. So I'm going to align this in the center, and you'll see that now they both move to the center. If I wanted to align it by going back to the left, align it to the left and to the right. Now if I want it in the center again, but this time I also want it towards the top of the cell, we can go to Format, Top. Now it doesn't look like much at the moment, but if we did enlarge these rows, you would see that now it's on the top. And if I go to Format and I align it towards the bottom, it will be on the bottom. And for the middle, it will be in the middle. Now another thing we can do besides just aligning it in the middle or to the left or to the right or in the center is we can choose to rotate the text. Right now there's no text rotation, so it's by default. But if we wanted to, we can tilt it up as a little tilt. We can tilt it down. We can do things like stack vertically, or even rotate up. Or if we want to turn it around, we can rotate down. And last but not least, we can choose a 90-degree angle and really customize how we want this to look. And this is more for appearance when you're doing different data sets. Now the last thing we can do here is, let's say, I'm just going to delete this example, that we have Joe called in sick. Now you notice that this was a long sentence, so I had to really make this big, because if I didn't, it spilled and it cut off into B. If I wanted to, I can choose that format and actually do text wrapping, so it wraps the text around. Right now it's an overflow, so it's spilling over into the B column, and we're cutting it off. So instead I'm going to use wrap, and you'll see that it will cut it off to where it's big right there. If I wanted to put in column next to the 4, it would cut off by the 4. However big the column is. Sick, it would cut into the sick. But I think this looks good, just like that. Now once again, this is preference and just the way that you want your appearance of the sheet to look. I didn't mind it like this, so I'm going to keep it back in this order, but just know that you can do that. So what I want you to do is take a moment now and try it out for yourself, and then come back and we'll have some more fun. Now, back in an earlier section, we actually used the Explore button right down here, and we were able to change the way that this appeared. So it kind of put in a nice little appearance, so it wasn't just pure black on white. Now we can make more changes to the appearance and format our sheet to just make it look a little more vibrant. So for instance, if I wanted to change the colors of my headers here, what I can do is I can select all of my headers, and you'll notice on the quick access toolbar, we have something called fill color. We can actually fill the background color of the cells and design it any way we like. Now I'm going to use my favorite color, which is blue. I actually like this blue here. Not only that, but we could have bold or italicized or even underlined or changed the text color. Maybe I want it to be red. Oof. Maybe I want it to just stay automatic black. We can use keyboard shortcuts like Control U to underline, Control B to bold, back and forth. Maybe for each of these, I want it to be bordered, so I can use my borders and add a border. That looks pretty good. And we can change the appearance of this. Now, not only do we have to change this manually, but if we go into our Format menu, we can also select a theme. So I'm going to click on Format, Theme, and it's going to open up the standard current theme, which is standard. And we can choose different ones, like a simple light. You'll notice that clicking on them will show you a preview of what it will look like. It will change not only the text, it'll change the color, all the different font styles, the sizes of the font. And I'll click on all these different ones and just take a look at which one I like the most. Now, if I don't like any of them, I can always click on Customize and choose. Maybe I want the font to be Arial. Maybe I want the text color to just be a nice black. If I have any charts, I want the chart backgrounds to be just white. Choose different accent colors, like blue. Accent number 2 would be darker blue. Accent 3, maybe a green. And we can choose all these different colors, pick the ones that we like the most. And if we have hyperlinks, we'll make them red. Once we're done, we can simply click Done, and we're good to go. We can exit this out. And this is a great way that we can format and change the appearance of our charts, our tables, and just our normal data. Take a moment, try it out on your own, pick some of your favorite colors. We've created a pretty great spreadsheet here, but we may not always have the time to do so. Instead, we can use pre-existing spreadsheets that were created from Google, and those are known as templates. So to get to the templates, I'm going to go over to Sheets Home. And if you remember in the startup page, we had access to these templates right here. Now, if you wanted to see more templates, you can always go into the template gallery. And that's what I'll do. I'll click into template gallery. And you'll see they have a bunch of templates like to-do list templates, annual budget, monthly budget, some calendar templates as well, work-related templates, project management, and even education. But we're going to keep things simple. Let's do a simple to-do list. So it's going to load up the to-do list, and look at this. We have check marks, we have a date, and the task. And if I simply select the check mark, it will cross off the task. So maybe I want to add a task for today, and I will put something like, there we go. Once I'm done with this task, I can click the check mark, and we're good to go. So take a moment, check out one of those templates, and try it out. We don't only need to use one sheet all the time. Sometimes we may need more sheets. Now, I'm referring to the sheets right down here. And you'll notice we have one sheet called the to-do sheet. Now, there's many things we can do here. Like maybe, for instance, we want to take this sheet and delete it. Or maybe we want to make a duplicate. Or copy it somewhere else to a new spreadsheet or an existing one. Rename it, change the color of it, or even protect it. But let's say that we want to make sure that we have a to-do list for every month. So instead of this being called to do, I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call this one January to-do list. Now the next thing I may want to do is create another one for next month. And instead of creating a whole nother sheet, especially since this was a template created by Google, I can simply click duplicate. And it will make a copy of that sheet. Now, once we start doing this, we can do a couple of them. So maybe I'm going to cross out some of these tasks and deselect them just so that we have a clear sheet here. And I'm going to call this one, and I'm going to rename it. I'll call this one February to-do list. We can keep doing that, just making those duplicates. If we wanted to, we can also hide some of the sheets. So, for instance, maybe I'm done with January and I don't need to see it anymore. I can always click the drop down and hide the sheet. And I'll say, use the view menu to unhide sheets. So it gives you a little tip there if you're wondering, hey, where's my sheet? How do I get it back? You can also just click on all of the sheets and select January's. And it'll bring it back as well. Or you could have went into the view and you could have just simply seen all your hidden sheets. Another thing we can do is change the color of these. So maybe I want this one to be a nice blue. And I want this one to be a nice red. And we can color code. Take a moment, try this out on your own, and then we'll come back for some more fun stuff. Let us head back over to the original file that we were working with. To do so, I'm just going to go back to the Sheets home, and I'll see some of the things I was working on today, which is our Google Sheets Practice Fun. I'll open that up. Now that I have this, what I want to do is I simply want to maybe freeze the panes. Now you may be asking, well, why would I want to freeze panes, and what is that? Well, let's say that we had a lot of data here going down. So I'm just going to play around with this. I'm going to move this a little bit right up here. And I'm going to delete these two columns. And we'll delete column A and B by right-clicking, delete columns. What I'm going to do is just take this data right here and copy it and then paste it over and over again, just so it makes it look like we have a lot of data. Now, the reason why I would use freeze panes is because sometimes when we're looking at our data, we may do this. We may start to scroll and look, and we'll be like, wait a second, what are these numbers for? Oh yeah, week 3. What are these numbers? Oh yeah, total sales. And that can happen a lot when you're using massive amounts of data. So a little trick is to actually view this with freeze panes. Now, since we're talking about viewing it a certain way, we're going to go into the View menu, and the first option is our Freeze option. Now you can freeze no rows and no columns, 1 row and 1 column, 2 and 2, or up to the current row. So the up to the current row and up to the current column matters where we are in the spreadsheet. For instance, if I'm in D, column 9, when I go to View Freeze, it will say column D, row 9. So, if I wanted to, just simply freeze this top row of headers, what I would do is I would click anywhere below it and go to View, Freeze, and I'm just going to freeze the first row. And what that will do is freeze all of this, but it will allow me to move here. So now when I start to scroll down, my headers scroll with me. And then I'll always know that this number is a bonus, this is the sales, week 4, 3, 2, and 1, and we're good to go. So take a moment and try this out for yourself. Another thing I may want to do at this moment is maybe change some of these values from just a normal value to a currency, because we are talking about a dollar amount. To do that, you may notice right over here there's this dollar sign, and that will format our text to a currency. So I'm going to click it. Now, when we're dealing with massive amounts of data that have just full numbers here for the amount, we don't necessarily need the change. So what you can do is come here and increase or decrease the decimal places. I'm going to do that. I'm going to decrease both. 1, 2. Now our data looks really nice. So take a moment and try this out for yourself. When we left off, we talked about freezing panes. And it was really helpful, especially when I had massive amounts of data and I wanted to keep my headers from moving with the entire sheet. Now, if you want that to stop happening, we just have to simply go back to View, Freeze, and select No Rows. And if we had columns frozen, we would go to Freeze and No Columns, and everything will go back to normal. Now, what we're going to talk about next is how we can not freeze columns and rows, but how we can actually hide them. Because maybe there's certain data in here that our managers don't need, or maybe we don't need to see it. For instance, maybe I don't want people to know the 20% bonus rate. So what I can do is I can hide these two columns. Now to hide a column, you can either right-click on the column and get all of these different menu options, or we can click on the drop-down and get that same menu. Now you'll notice I do have an option to hide the column, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to click the drop-down and hide that column. click the drop-down, and hide the column. Now it's not going to mess with my formula because we haven't deleted anything, we've just simply hidden it. And if we want to get it back, you'll now notice that we do have these arrows going back and forth, which simply means that something's being hidden. So that's a sure way to know when something's hidden. To unhide it, you're going to click, and boom, it brings it right back. So to hide, drop down, hide, drop down, and hide. And if you want to bring it back, just click on the left or right arrow, and it will bring it right back. Take a moment and try it out on your own. So far, we've created a great spreadsheet. But sometimes, before we send it out, we like to just double check that everything's looking okay. But let's say, for instance, I was rushing through creating this and I spelled week 4 wrong. Maybe I forgot an E. Well, I'm not going to look through every single cell to see if I spelled things correctly. Instead, what I can do is I can use a tool called Spell Checker. Now, to access that, we're going to go over to the Tools menu and go to Spelling. And you will see we have an option for spell check. And I'm going to give that a click. And when I do that, it's going to search through the entire Google Sheet. And look, it said change week to week. Now I can either change that or ignore it. Or maybe I meant to say WEK and I want to add that to my dictionary. But since I know that I did mean to say week, I'm going to want to be sure to change it to week and click change. It's going to fix the spelling error, and then I may just search all the sheets just in case. And we're good to go. No spelling suggestions, and our document looks great. If you're looking at this spreadsheet and you decide that, well, you're not utilizing the tools at the moment, and you just want to look fully at the spreadsheet, there's actually a view where you can use the full screen view to just see the spreadsheet and none of the commands. Now this is great if you send this off to someone and they're not looking to edit this sheet, but just simply view it. To do that, we're going to head over to the View menu right up top here, and we're going to go over to Full Screen. So View, Full Screen, and what you'll notice is it hides everything up to the formula bar. And then it tells us that the controls have been hidden. And if we want to show the controls, we just simply press Escape on our keyboard and it'll bring it back. So now that we have this great worksheet here, we may want to print it. So to print it, there's a couple ways we can do that. We can either come right over here to the Quick Access toolbar and select Print. It also gives you the keyboard shortcut. Or you can click into the File menu and all the way at the bottom, click on Print. Now once you do that, it's going to open you up into the print settings. It'll tell you how many pages total you have. You can see which sheet you're currently printing. And if you had multiple sheets, you can select which ones you want. You can choose the paper size, the orientation, landscape or portrait, the scale, maybe you want to fit it to page, fit it to width, normal. You can select different margins, some formatting options like showing the grid lines, showing some notes, and also you can add some headers and footers, like the page number, the workbook title, the sheet name. Maybe I don't want the sheet name on there because it only says sheet 1, so I'll remove it. And there you go. You can choose exactly what you want. Now, once you're done setting this up, you can just simply click Next. And then it'll open up your computer's print settings, and you can print it. So take a minute, check it out, and I'll see you soon. Besides just printing this, we can also download this Google Sheet in different ways. To download it, we're going to go over to our File menu. We're going to go to Download. Now what you'll notice is we have different formats we can download by, like Microsoft Excel. or even a PDF or a CSV. So you can use these different formats, especially if you work with different companies that don't always utilize Google Sheets. Maybe they use Microsoft Excel and you still have to send this information to them. So take a moment and check it out. Another great feature of Google Sheets is that we can take this sheet and publish it to the web. Now to do that, it's very simple. We're going to simply come over to our File menu again and go over to Publish to the Web and give that a click. Now once you click on that option, it's going to open up a dialog box. And it's going to give you two options, a link to the entire document, or we can actually embed this in some HTML code. We can also access the publish content settings, automatically republish when changes are made, which is nice so you don't have to worry about uploading it every single time there's a change. And you can also click on Learn More if you wanted to learn a little bit more about being able to use doc sheets and slides and embed them in HTML code, or even just put the link into the system. And there we go. We've gone over how we can publish to the web. We can print our documents, download it as things. We can even share this document. But how do we email it as an attachment? Well, to do that, we're going to find that button once again in our File menu. And you'll see the option to email as an attachment. And I'm going to give that a click. Now, when I do that, it's going to ask me if I want to send a copy to myself, and you can either check mark that on or off. Then you can choose who you want to send it to. For instance, maybe I want to send it to my work email. And then we can put the subject. Now the subject will automatically put the file name in there, but you can always change that. Now, we have a couple of options when we do an email as an attachment. We can actually send a little message and say, hey, here's a little detail about this worksheet. But the biggest thing is that we can change the formatting of the way this sheet will be sent. We can attach it as a PDF, and if we click the drop-down, we can also attach it as an open office spreadsheet or even a Microsoft Excel file. And you can choose whichever one you like. I always go with Microsoft Excel because when we're dealing with spreadsheets like this, most of the time people want to edit it or take a look at different tools within the spreadsheet. I'll send it off, send myself a copy just so that I have it, send a little message, and then send it. Take a moment, take a look at those settings, and I'll see you back. I had a lot of fun talking about Google Sheets with you, and I hope you got a lot of good tips and tricks out of this course. As always, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you next time.